Hey Samford fans, welcome into this week's edition of the Samford Sports Wrap-Up presented by Alabama Power. I'm John Mack, who's very happy today to be joined by another one of the department's unsung heroes, a guy who does a lot of work behind the scenes, Director of Facilities and Ops, Jacob Kinnebrew. Jacob, appreciate your time.
Thanks, John. I really appreciate being here. I love sitting down and talking about what we do and shedding a little light on me and my crew and how we go about our day.
Well, start by telling us a little bit about your background and really what brought you to Samford Athletics.
Yeah, so Samford is actually my first, out of college, it's really my first full-time gig. I interned at a few places. I interned at UAB in Auburn in their development offices, and then my first real internship in sports, I had the real honor of being a Paralympic intern with the United States Olympic Committee out in Colorado Springs. That kind of sparked being able to work into the sports world, facilities, ops, administration, kind of saw it all. And so then was able to pursue a degree at Covenant College in sports administration, and then post-college was working at UAB as an internship for the summer, and Joe Davidson, who's now the head women's golf coach, been my boss for 3 years now, gave me a call and said, hey, you interested? Have you ever thought about it? And I was like, Joe, I'd love to work in sports. Like, I was working for a charity right after UAB at the time down in Chelsea, and great people, but sports I think was my true calling, and working with the athletes, the coaches, and trying to make it as successful as possible on our end so that the athletes can compete at the peak level that they can.
Well, as you just mentioned, you worked under Joe for several years. Now that he's gone to a different area, how has that impacted your role in facilities and ops?
With Joe moving on, we've all, myself, Jacob Folker, and Wes, have all assumed more responsibility, but a lot of the work that Joe did has fallen on my shoulders in regards to interacting with the coaches and making sure facility maintenance and interaction with campus and how we get projects done. It's really nice to have Joe around. I think I've called him up every single day or swung by his office asking advice or how to proceed moving forward, because there's just a lot of questions when you assume a role in any job. You think you know everything that goes on, but you don't truly know everything that goes on. So it's a learning process, and this is a year that's going to be interesting to learn a little bit, because we're all in a different boat with COVID and spring sports coming up. So I think it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it, and we're going to be as successful as we possibly can.
Obviously, some things had to be done pretty differently this summer in order to bring our student athletes back onto campus because of the COVID pandemic. What did you guys have to do from an operations standpoint around the Pete Hanna Center?
Yeah, so when everything went down about spring break last year, they allowed us, being the facility side of it, we were allowed to stay on campus for a few weeks and kind of help clean up the building. So we were able to, we got a hold of some backpack sprayers, a lot of disinfectant, and we went down to each locker room, every location in the Pete Hanna Center, and all our other venues, and basically sanitized everything. As most of the athletes know, we bagged up anything in the lockers. That helps with the retention of the cleanliness of the lockers in the rooms, because if you had to sit around for 5, 6 months, whatever we ended up being before they came back, that we were trying to preserve the cleanliness factor. So anyway, they kept us on for 4 weeks, and then once we got the word they were going to move out, we were here. We made sure everybody could get to the locker rooms in the Pete Hanna Center and could get access to their stuff, and any questions or concerns they may have had, we tried to answer them as best as we could. So at least there was someone they could put a face to, instead of probably just getting a response through email like it'd been for the last few months. So we thought that was really important. We believe in, or at least me, and I know this, I get this from Joe, we believe in a face-to-face conversation instead of something behind the scenes, because we think that's how real work gets done. So we tried our best to get in front of everybody if they had any questions, and we've kind of been around since then, trying to do what we can, fixing things here and there that normally we wouldn't get to.
With no live sports right now, what are some of the projects you guys are currently working on?
Yeah, so I'm sure if you've been around at all, you've probably seen the pressure washer going. We finished all of tennis. That's been our biggest project right now. That's an opportunity we just don't have. It's a lot of pressure washing is really time consuming for as large amount of space we got to do, and so we had a chance finally to get the tennis courts done. All the area around tennis, we've moved on currently to baseball and softball up by JT Haywood in the softball field. That'll take us a while, and so that's really pushing some time out. But again, we don't have time over the summer to do that with camps going on. We don't have time during the school year because the game's going on. So there's a lot of projects behind the scenes that I can't really talk about too many of them because I don't know if they're finalized or, a lot of budget constraints we got to deal with. But there's a lot of stuff we're dealing with that a lot of people don't know about that won't be announced or we won't really bring up for several months. And so we're doing our best to kind of get the ball rolling on those just because now we have the time to hit them hard as we can. So that's what we're trying to pursue right now.
Looking ahead to the spring, we don't know what it's going to look like. There's obviously the hope that we can play our fall sports, football, volleyball, soccer, in the spring. If it comes to that, it's taxing on really the entire athletic staff, everyone in external and definitely everyone on the ops and facility side. How do you guys even begin to prepare for something like that with the potential overlap we could have in the spring?
Yeah, so something we've always said is preparation is key. We believe in being ready. It's not the day before, it's not 2 days before, you're ready a week, a month ahead of time. That's what my predecessor always taught me, and we believe that's the way that if something happened on game day, if we know say you have multiple sports on a weekend that you normally would have just spring sports, and now you have fall and spring sports, you got to prep for that way in advance. You got to be ready to hit the ground running so that if something happens at one location, you got to alternate to the other, and you got to be able to make those adjustments, as we all know. And so right now we're preparing the best we can. There's a lot of unanswered questions. Everybody has them. A lot of the questions that a lot of people are probably thinking are probably the same questions we have. And that's just being honest, and I think all of us accept that at this point. So we're waiting on a lot of answers, and so we're building contingencies now, and then once we get the answer, we kind of alternate it a little bit, get back on course, and then at some point we'll say it's smooth sailing, but we'll see what happens in the spring. It's going to be a lot.
Well, again, the ops team really some of the first in and last out for every home event here at Samford Athletics. Jacob, really appreciate your time and everything you do for Samford Athletics.
Yeah, thanks, John. I appreciate you taking the time to have me in here and sit down and kind of talk about what we do a little bit.
Director of Facilities and Operations, Jacob Kinnebrew. I'm John McAfee. That'll do it for this edition of the Samford Sports Wrap-Up presented by Alabama Power.